Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode, another Thursday of the Erudition Interactive Black History and Knowledge Session. My name is Eddie Phillips, and tonight we will be talking about history and talking about current events and a whole gamut of things. If you are new to this program, I thank you for joining us first. Secondarily, I like to say to you that we do this every Thursday, and we provide Black history, knowledge, and understanding on topics that are not often routinely covered by your history books and your schools, and just in general. We debunk a lot of things and provide you with facts and things to actually support the history that is being, the little bit of history we actually see out here, to see and share if in fact it is legitimate, because sometimes it is not. So we definitely want to provide you with some accurate history. If you are new, I'd ask you to like, click the button, as they say, subscribe, share, and help us as we grow this program and this network. We do multiple shows during the week. You will definitely get something from everything that we put out, I guarantee you. So it is something that I think you benefit from if you subscribe to the network. If you're getting us in a little bit of a bad feed, I apologize. I think we're rapping a little bit today, but please bear with us. Hopefully, sometimes the internet does what it's going to do as we do this show, and so I ask that you bear with us. It looks like it's stable now, but sometimes that's what happens. All right. Tonight, this has been such a crazy week. So many cases of gun violence on young people. It's just insane. The amount of things that have gone on this week. Eric, I see you. Thank you for joining us this evening. I appreciate it. It's disheartening. And it was actually something that was bringing me down. Earlier this week, I found myself, excuse me, sorry about that, down because of so much of this that is occurring. And just when historians, I can't say all, but I will say me. When we see these things, it makes us think back. It makes me think back. And I always give it a historical connotation. I always look at it Good to see you, Sean Anthony. Thank you for being here. And it really pushed me back to think about what we've gone through in this country and where we're going. Unfortunately, in America, there is this idea of respect. What I mean by that is that America wants to be respected. America wants to be seen as this symbol of freedom, of justice, of liberty. And yet, every time you turn around, the very citizens, the very people who are supposed to be, this in their own minds, these cultural heroes show themselves to be less. Show themselves to be less. And it's a sad affair, because what we're doing, what we have done, is we have completely lost this idea of humanity in this country. We're losing the idea of humanity. And some would argue, did we ever really have it? Right? You can go through and look at the history of America and see its racism, its bigotries, its slavery. But here's the thing about America as a country. No matter what our history has been, America has always been this place that's promised. That's the key. That promised to be something more, promised to be something better, promised that even though we may not be doing right at this moment, even though we're not where we need to be, we're going to try to get there. We're going to swear, we're going to pledge, we're going to vow to you that we're going to get there. And it assured everyone who has ever been bought over here, came over here, recognized as a citizen. It tried to guarantee that that's what you would receive. Your social security number, your birth certificate, those things that identify you or put you as a naturalized or a citizen who's come over here from other countries. All of these things were supposed to be that promise, that contract with you, that covenant, that you were in a country that would see you and treat you better, that you are in the bastion of freedom. And are we? Not at all. We see death, destruction, murdering of minors. Hey, Dad, good to see you. I'm happy that you're here. We see people killing their actual intimate family, their wives, their kids. And yet, we keep telling ourselves America is better. Eric said, I actually don't have an answer for this, why it's unique for American gun violence and these mass shootings. It's not unique. What I told Jesse, that mass shooting that occurred in Tennessee, again, church school, was a hate crime. We can't say that so not to be labeled as homophobic, but I'm saying it. Listen, Rather something is a hate crime, rather it's or a hate crime in the way that we have been conditioned to see um hate. Hate. You know, it should not be a surprise if you're looking down and you're seeing black men going in and shooting up Sweet 16 parties. If you see people who are putting us through a slow suicide, killing us, black folks as a culture, none of these things should be a surprise if we look at who we are and where we are and what we've been doing. We've made prison a college. We've made prison a college. We allow our children to go through traditional school, that brick and mortar from kindergarten, hopefully to 12th grade, just to graduate some of them into prison. That's what we've done. And we refuse to accept that because that doesn't fit our narrative, our understanding. People are being provided a higher education in ways to kill, murder, destroy. And when you look at the definition of a college, what are you talking about? You're talking about a society, a place, a club, a group, a training ground that teaches people what they should do. So if I went into jail as a car thief, I could come out as a murderer. If I go in as a murderer, I can come out as a I'm a serial killer. Life means nothing to me anymore because I'm the baddest man in the whole darn town. Because I got that college degree in murder and mayhem. And we ask ourselves, why? Why? We don't read our history. We don't try to go and figure out what was written, what was taught to teach us to be different. I was looking at a statistic earlier today before I got on the show where it said that the N-word, as they call it, the ninja moments, let's call it that the Boondocks popularized. You stepped on my shoes, you bumped me, you looked at me too hard, right? Are expanding. People now, you walk and try to open the door of somebody's car and they jump out and pop, 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 shoot you. You ring a doorbell, pop, 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 they shoot you. You having a party and they don't feel like this party is deserved, pop, 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 they shoot you. But in the statistic, it was saying homicides involving Black victims for whom the circumstances could be identified, or they knew each other, right? Or saw each other. 69%. 69% were little misdemeanors, but 56% involved arguments between people that got out of hand. Disrespect. You disrespected me. And so now, in order to get my honor back, I got to hurt you. We put a black face on oligarchy and call it a day. Yet we still have these systemic. Here's the thing about, again, my issue with this country, Eric, I see what you're saying, and I see your point. But let me tell you something. If you buy into a system, because you said system there, if you historically buy into a system that has shown you, right, what it is, you can call yourself left and right. I have a left and a right arm, hand, fingers, but they're all connected to the same body. They're all activated by the same mind. And if the mind is corrupt, if the intentions are corrupt, if we shut off the senses of what we do, it affects that left and that right. It affects it. And we use both as tools. And if you add the idea of an isometric, right, where I push my left and my right against each other, and they both get stronger so that one can't overtake the other, I don't move in any direction that is positive. I stalemate myself. And that, no matter who we throw up here, whether it's Bush, whether it's Obama, whether it's Reagan, whether it doesn't matter what person you put as the figurehead, the mind of this country is still fixed in the same way that it was when it was established. We're still arguing the Second Amendment. In 2023, we're acting as if we're patriots from 1776. We accept the mentalities of these failed men and women of that time, knowing that they wouldn't address moral issues such as slavery. But we exalt them as heroes, even though historically, socially, culturally, we start to see these things as lies. We willfully deaden the senses of the body of America, since we're going to stay with that example, the metaphor, to not see when we should, to not hear when we should, and to not speak out when we should. We have laid in this filth for so long that we can't even smell it. The body has adapted and conditioned itself to no longer recognize the problem until it is a threat so big that it makes us as a body have to recognize it. Thus something like a 9/11 or the COVID virus infection. But everything else in this body is working together, that left and that right. That's what it is. And we refuse to admonish it. And that's on every level. We are in a country that tells us that every person, this is what they say in their words, but it does not agree with the body. We say that everybody is presumed innocent until proven guilty. But very few of us have a presumption of innocence, especially if you're an outlier. There is no presumption of innocence. There is only the presumption of guilt. And you got to prove to us that you're not guilty. You said we have the Restrict Act being established by Congress. This, I think, will disproportionately affect Black and brown communities, and our rights be taken away. We are at a point right now, Eric, that I would argue with you historically that we're not even in a, we're moving out of just the restriction on people of color. We're moving to a point where America was always going to go. We forget that when the founding fathers wrote up the Constitution and vote up your ability to vote, wrote up your ability to be a citizen, they didn't want the commoner. This is why you have the Electoral College, to have the decision, because they did not believe, whether you're Black, white, brown, whatever, that common people, poor people, right, should have any representation, which is funny because that's what they were all about. They wanted to be recognized. The reason behind the revolution and the reason behind the forming of America was the idea of being recognized in the court of England. But they didn't want the poor, the ignorant. America has always been about exclusionism. And we can trace that through America's history, through its timeline. The very idea of the Pilgrims, of the Quakers, and all of these people, right, that came over here. There is classism. America has always been a stratified system. And if you've watched this program, you know that I've said this many times. America has always been stratified. And I'm going to say something else on here too that angers people. Americans have also been taught to be ignorant. To think in circular logic, to never go outside of the box or outside of the circle, to never ever start to ask the questions that are important, to only think what they want you to think, to give you arguments, political arguments, to give you sectarian arguments, to give you class arguments, to give you these things where everybody's so focused on redundant, non-inspiring arguments that they miss the big picture. And it's sad because, yes, because we don't understand propaganda in the way that we should. Propaganda is a human condition. Did you hear what I said? I'll say it again. Propaganda is a human condition. And if you're smart, right, if you really understand what I mean by that, is that we like to go to biased information. We like the scandal. We like the conspiracy theory. We like the popularized idea of something being advertised. Why advertisement works so well in America. The more the media publicizes something, the more money is made. And not always for good reasons. In the 80s, they were telling everybody we need to feed the children in Africa. Later on in the 90s, they came back again. Now we're back there again. Where did all that money go? Where did all that effort, those 2 cents a day, $3 a day, the missionaries that were going over there and the food programs, where's all the billions of dollars? Taken. And agreed upon to be stolen. Why the propaganda machines of the United States and of the Western world, Western side of the world, were in full swing. We're taught in the military that we have to win hearts and minds. Because if we can win hearts and minds, people are willing to die for you. People are willing to lay down their lives for you. People are willing to ignore the frailties and the issues. And we're lost. There, as you said, it's legal in America. It is, because you can, what am I doing right now? You can get on right now on social media and you can say whatever you want to say to an extent to get people to follow. And you don't need facts. You just need people to follow it. It's why I asked the question recently, how are people getting 1,000 followers on TikTok saying some ludicrous, completely lost points and completely misleading people? Some people say, well, some of them got workarounds and they were able to it doesn't matter. They're out here doing it. Eric, I'll give you an example. I didn't even realize it, even though I talk about it all the time. I was watching the show The Last Ship. I was soaking it up, and my boyfriend goes, hey, you know this? Yes, it is propaganda. I've heard people, I haven't watched the show, Eric, in full disclosure, but I've watched people talk about some of these shows. I try to teach my kids about subliminals, propaganda, lies that are in the media. It didn't used to be. Well, it didn't used to be before the advance of Western culture, which is built on propaganda and lies. And for the better part of, I'd say, 1,500 years, has been. The best propaganda and the best manipulation comes from things that you will not notice. People don't like facts. I am beginning to really understand that. Right? They see facts as a social violation. Right? Because see, what are facts? Right? Facts make you have to go and rethink maybe what you believed. Right? Maybe a fact makes you have to question something that you have accepted to be true from the time of being a baby. And so socially, right, you're in a communal mentality, a community mentality, Well, they said it, so it must be right, and I'm going to believe him, and he's going to believe me, and we're going to go there, and we're going to do that. But when you step in and say, no, that's not right, and this is why it's not right, and this is where you need to go to better understand this subject. I'm on here every Thursday doing it. And I'm trying to find ways to grow our numbers, our subscribers, people who watch us. I'm trying to find ways to do it, but I will never compromise the facts. But because I don't put out things that seem so sensationalized all the time, we don't want to have a truthful, factual talk. Because I don't want to control your mind. There's a difference between control and opening up people's minds. There's a difference between the social and the individual. And people don't give value to the fact that the individual is what opens up the social. I guess my question is, how do we recognize this and adjust accordingly? What is truth and what is propaganda? The first thing you have to do is you have to ask yourself, what is my motivation? It sounds like an actor, right? What am I motivated in doing here? If I'm watching a program to just be thoroughly entertained, and I know, and I tell myself most of this stuff is not true, then I could probably sit down and laugh at it, at the pure comedy of it, without giving my feelings and understanding and everything into the belief of it. But if I sit down and watch a documentary, or I sit down to watch a bioflick, or if I sit down to read a book or to interact with a conversation, and I go in it with the idea that everything that I hear is factual, because I don't want to do the steps and pick up the book, flex my mental muscles, and I don't like the attack on my cognitive dissonance. I don't like the attack on my biased views. Recognize your bias. Ask yourself, what is your motivation? Those two steps can help you avoid falling into the lemming trap. And too many of us, another thing with that, Eric, is we don't expect, right, that we are susceptible to the propaganda. We lie to ourselves. It's like the guy in the old 80s TV shows that would say, I can't be hypnotized, and be the main one hypnotized. Because you tell yourself something that you know is not true. When I started Erudition, people would come out, some folks would say, oh, I already know all of that. And then I would ask them to, well, come on the show. Come get in the comments. Talk to me about history. There's never a week that I don't try to invite somebody to come on. Me and my son have talked about it many times. I get contacts, DMs from people all over, right? All over. From Africa, from India, from Britain, from Canada. And they send me messages on social media telling me, oh, I saw your program on this, and I feel that this. And that's great that you sent me a DM. But when I invite you to come on the show, I get 5 or 6 people who I'm greatly appreciative of on a Thursday show. When I ask people to come on and let's discuss history, they because one thing that you will know about me, and if you know me, you better prove me wrong. Come with facts, or you're just wasting my time and your time. Because an argument should grow both of us. A disagreement should grow both of us. We should both walk away with that with some level of better understanding. Teddy, I believe the real reason you see these killings over simple arguments is due to people developing fear of conflict. That is a part of it. But how do you learn conflict resolution? Who do you learn that from? When kids are tearing up the streets in Chicago, we were all kids. We all did stupid things. But some of those were not kids. Those were 20-year-old people still acting and falling back into a juvenile mentality. I tune in as much as I can. And I appreciate that, my brother. I thank you so much. Because we need to be talking about these things. Conflict involves tearing with someone to get an understanding, but people don't care enough to be patient and get an understanding because they bottle away their empathy. It's a good point, Teddy. Very good point. Try to get to you guys' comments. Thus, they seek a quick end, and what's a quicker end than to kill them, especially if you can't even respond quick enough to put up a fight. We need to teach empathy and patience to value life. I agree, my son. And I'm glad that you understand. Zach. A way to expand the channel is to offer some form of fun. So here's the thing. What financial information are you looking for? Right? Because see, we could all grow our wealth and we could all talk about growing wealth. But I'm gonna give you something from the great Fred Hampton, right? When he was presented with the idea of opening up a bank for the people. Sounds familiar to where we are right now today in society. When he was presented with the idea of getting the people in Chicago to open up a credit union, and the white man that came to him said, if we can get the people to put their money in this credit union and we can build the community and we can build houses and they can do all of this. And Fred Hampton, young Fred Hampton, 20-something years old, told that man that every revolution that ever happened, right? Where the revolutionary thought, we're going to make lives better for the people. But once that money got involved, look at Papa Doc. Look at these people in these countries where people don't have anything. But once that money gets involved, the revolution is over with in the mind of the person who got the money. And these little revolutions take place in your local churches and in your communities and what you given to. Why fight for you if I can make more money from you by keeping you low? Unity is what we need. Financial wealth, growth of understanding and knowledge will come from that unity. We're not here to be racist and just say that only one part of America, whites are the only ones that are oppressing us. No, we want you to recognize the history of oppression. But to take another quote from Fred Hampton, who said, you don't fight racism with racism, you fight racism with unity. And we won't do that. We go to the propaganda. We go to the circular thinking that I talked about earlier. We go to the arguments that are set for us before we ever argue. Someone asked me, Eddie, why do you get mad with 1619? That's a good thing to teach our kids about 1619. About the Dutch ships bringing slaves over here. And I say, man, because that is not our full history. if I subjugate my history to only being coming from slaves, but you tell me that your ancestors were conquistadors and conquerors, kings, queens, dukes, earls, politicians, founding fathers, presidents, senators, congressmen, but you want to hold me low and not tell me that my people have been over here for a millennia. You don't want to tell me that my people were coming over here and sharing their knowledge and staying here to grow communities in South America, in North America. You only want to tell me about Beringa and how people came from Asia over to America and completely lie to me that the trade winds don't take my ancestors over here easier than yours. So you give me the argument of 1619 so that whenever I feel oppressed, held down, or low, I throw out 1619. My people have been here since 1619. And the first thing they say, yes, the first slaves came over here in 1619. That's the first time we brought you black slaves over here. And they've already prepped the argument because they gave you what to argue. Then if you say, well, my first documented by European documents, show that Africans were over here in 1528. Not in South America, not in Hispaniola, in North America. Up the... You don't want to talk to me about that. You also don't want to know that that was a tricultural agreement. That Spanish sailors, indigenous people in Florida, and Africans all left and fought to be together in a community together. Because that shows unity. I'm passionate about it because I need to be. By portrayal of actual events. Mike, I'm sorry if you guys are getting me a little bit broken up. I see that we kind of dropped a little bit in our feed. So please let me know if you're having some issues. And that sometimes does what it's going to do. Hold on a minute. All right. I get passionate lately about a lot of these things. Social media like to censor the truth. Lies aren't what is being censored. It's the truth that it shows like this that we don't want to get out of. We don't want them out to the masses. We're talking about that on the show tomorrow. Yeah, and you should. People don't want the truth. Lack of discipline. I like to question and evaluate, rinse and repeat. That's how and you should. That is the way to do it, Janarius, right? Question, evaluate. Question, evaluate. Hard for Black people to unite. It's crazy that other races can unite, but here's the problem with that. We can. But as I said earlier, if you work within this American body and the left and the right are fighting against each other, right? And you put your hopes, your dreams, because this is what we did, on those people moving the mentality, moving us to a different, but we forget they are connected to the same body and mind. There's no real benefit in having you to unite. So as I just said a moment ago, we give you arguments. We give you talking points. They're talking points. And while you're arguing all of that, the body is moving forward in whatever it was going to do anyway. That's what's happening. So the way ahead is to stop following that body. Grow your mind that's leading that body. But we don't want to do that. I have a question. African countries today seem to be siding with Russia and China instead of the U.S. and traditional colonial powers. Here's the thing. The attitude towards America, you know, Eric, you've been around the world. You've gone to places. And Americans, for the most part, are seen as hypocrites. It's just the truth. How do you tell people how to live a free life and seek liberty and treat people equally when you're treating your own people? And you've done it for centuries. There's no way that you can stay a superpower at the top. Anything. There's no way you can stay above the stratification of this world if you have a failed system. Everything under these people is failing. So when you have a collapse and folks want to go build themselves on something that they think is better, that will allow them to prosper. There is money in telling people that Africa is a crap hole country. There is money in telling people that Africa is still full of people who are uncivilized, dirty, filthy. People don't want a part of that. The European and the Western thinking have allowed people for the better part of 1,500 years to believe that they are better than everybody else. Yes, regulated to obscurity. Mali people, I don't know what you mean by that. I'm late, so I don't know if I mentioned anything about Mississippi passing the state. I don't know. I haven't read about that. But I do know that there are parts of Mississippi, what they've done is they've regulated Black people to be under the law of generally whites. And I think that's what you're talking about. But this is an issue because we don't learn from our history. And we're not learning from our history. We're continually allowing ourselves to be regulated, pushed, conditioned into a failed system of thought. Before we're like just a little bit more than 10 minutes out before the end of the program. So let me talk about some of these things that have gone on over the last couple of days. You know, I was looking at the situation in Missouri with the man shooting the young black boy and shooting through the door and shooting him in the head and then going and shooting him and basically trying to put him down. And I considered and I thought about, you know, in the eras of lynching, right? Blacks, they lived in this constant utter fear and terror that anytime you could be brutally killed or murdered, taken away from your family, even if you never did anything, even if you never hurt anybody. But it was based simply on the ideas and the function of racist, bigoted, murderous white folks. And yet we act like this is new. That older man, he's 85. I looked at his age when I saw it. He's 85. That means he's born around 1938. And rather he's a homegrown Missouri person or not. People forget that Missouri, right? Other than places in the South, had the highest lynching rate of any state outside of the South. Go look that up. That's the truth. So when you look at Missouri and look at a man who's 85 years old, and you think back, right, to 1938, and you think about what Missouri was doing, even when Missouri passed the separate but equal laws, Jim Crow laws, right? And they tried to push back on it. They completely closed down schools. Go look up Missouri gangs versus Canada and go look at that. Because separate but equal said that if you're going to have this school, you need to have something equal for blacks, right? That's how Jim Crow, that's how it's supposed to work. And when it didn't work that way, they shut down the whole system. Go look up the lynching of Cleo Wright in Missouri in 1942. And look how tragic and how evil that was, and how it changed the dynamics and thoughts of the entire country. See, we don't know our history. So when things happen, we're shocked. We're shocked. The abolishment of slavery in Mississippi. I see, Janaris, you're talking about the arches, St. Louis. Oh, listen, America is full of racism and history of racism, and not allowed to produce finished goods for profit, which is what America is in this position with the European power. So here's the thing. They could go in and rape Africa for the next 1,000 years and not get everything that Africa has provided within its continent. That's just a fact. But what we do know, I remember standing on the Navy ship and hearing the then Chief Naval Officer of the Navy sitting on the ship. Eric, I know you were there too, outside of Africa on the coast on the ship, and them looking over to Africa saying, this is next. This is next. And rather you talk about oligarchies, rather you talk about controls, rather you talk about it being a republic or not, whatever you want to politically staple it with, culturally staple it with. One thing you need to understand about where we are historically in America, you better understand that they are leading us, and that those in power, no matter what they say on television on either side, don't want you educated. They don't want you knowledgeable. I will go again as we get ready to close down this session. And I tell people all the time, I sit on Erudition tonight. Maybe you felt you didn't get enough history tonight. Maybe I didn't drop enough times and places and whatever. But I tell you all this every week. We do Erudition to inform, to grow. I ask you for your questions. I ask you to help us grow you as we grow ourselves. I put my sons on Wednesday and they talk about anything they want to talk about. My wife gets on Mondays and she talks about mental health. And we take out of our time, our knowledge. If you sit down and I don't brag on intelligence, but if you sit down and listen to my young children who can talk to you on a subject better than some adults with degrees, because we try to inform them. We try to grow them. And I find myself begging people to learn. And I'm okay with that. I've learned to be okay with that. And asking God to give me more time to do more. Because when I see young people rampaging out in the streets of Chicago and people said they were wilding, and nobody understood that term wilding is an old racist term to refer to black folks. And when you watch the footage of it, what did you see? A lot of young black folks running around, wilding, animals. Code word for you to use. And though it's not right what they did, this is the message that's being pushed out to the world. Look at these wild beasts. This is why when people come over to become citizens in America, they automatically, you look at the Asians who come over, you look at the people from the Middle East who come over and are made to think that black folks are, people of color are less. You can't be trusted. That the idea of black crime is inherent, born in you. And nobody there to defend it. Because most of the historians and the academics and whatever who go on Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, and all these other places don't talk about it. Not in truth. Don't try to educate you. Not for free. And it's a fight. When we say wilding, we need to understand the propaganda of that. Do we say that people who are, whites and others, are they wilding when they go to a sports event and start throwing cars over? Did we say that Rittenhouse, when he shot those people who were protesting, was he wilding? Words have meaning, my brother. Words have meaning. And in America, that meaning is a code word. It sparks fear. I once shared a documentary from the early 60s in Michigan, where the old white woman said that her father used to take her to the bridge and practice shooting down into the water because that's where they thought the Negroes were going to come from. He sparked fear in her. And what is the resultant? What's the result of that? I'm not validating or justifying black people doing wrong. But when we take a situation and we exacerbate it and make it worse by telling folks that they're wilding, then you're going to have people getting hurt, if not killed, who are innocent, who have done nothing. And I'm going to close with this. Simply going up to ring a doorbell, pull a door on a car. But you scared people to a point where they feel justified in ending the life of somebody that could be my son, your nephew, your brother, your cousin, your sister, your mother, simply because, as Teddy said so well earlier, there's no empathy, there's no connection, there's no compassion. I saw them wilding on TV. This must be an example of that. Boom, boom. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for all of you who participate in the session tonight. I hope you got something from it. We're at our hour. I thank you. I wasn't feeling good this week, and I appreciate all of you all because it helped me to get through it. Please, please, please. I thank all of you who are on here. Get people to come and try to watch the Erudition Network. Help us grow these numbers. What we're putting out here, what we're trying to do is worth the time. And a lot of times we do it in spite of whatever is going on in our lives, because we know that it is just that important. Even if they want to come on here and disagree and argue, I'm fine with that. But I want us to do better, to learn more. I often, when I talk to people, I talk about one of my favorite fairy tale nursery rhymes, the Pied Piper of Hamelin, as a way to look at a society. Piper came to do a job, came to get the rats out of town. And when he wasn't paid, he decided, well, I'm going to play and I'm going to take the children. And the story always plays out the same way. He goes back to get his money. They don't get it. So he starts to play and the children follow him. The thing that always gets me with that story, no matter what way it's told, is that as he's taking the children, not the parents, it never talks about the parents trying to stop the Piper. We got to understand that. We got to understand that. You may think that people care about you. You might think that they want you. But in the end of the day, are they trying to get you out of that line to stop you from going over that cliff? Those who supposedly care about you, those politicians, those preachers, those sectarians, all of these people who you think, are they going to let you go over that cliff? Because they are not willing to make a change. All right. Thank you all so much. Thank you all so much. I'll tell them I said hi, man. Thank you for coming on and joining us tonight. Appreciate it. Good to see you. Send my love. Right, but the message is that they act, which is probably when white people shoot people all the time. We don't call them out. That is a truth. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you again. All right, if you want to help out with the program, anything you will send, whatever, you see the ticker down here at the bottom. We greatly appreciate that. I use that to update our cameras and our ability to provide these programs for you. So anything that is so it will be helpful, and I appreciate it. But I definitely appreciate you. Thank you, Janarius, for getting those to watch. And please tell anybody, I'll keep the door open for anybody to come on and we can discuss these things. All right, let me get out of here because I'll keep on going. But let me get out of here. You all have a great weekend. We will do a wrap up on Saturday. I think I was on for 30 minutes this last Saturday. The wrap up is to talk about anything we talked about for the week. Tina wasn't able to do her show this week, so maybe she'll be on and talk about some things, or maybe not, but she might want to talk about. But we'll see you probably on Saturday, and then next Monday when she comes on, Wednesday and Thursday. All right. Have a blessed and wonderful rest of your week. And until next time, keep learning. Thank you.